Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've been threatening for a long time to get back onto the differential, and various things going on around here, so I wanted to shoot this video and get moving on it again. So in this one, what we're going to do is put the pinion bearing races on the differential back in. The outer one isn't a problem, it's the inner one that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Getting the race back into the differential. As you saw in the last differential video, I was able to remove the race to be able to remove the shim and put in new races. Now, as you know, the pinion depth is adjusted by the shim behind the inside inner bearing race. So if we're going to need to make any adjustments to that pinion, we're going to need to be able to take that race out, put it back in, check it. If it's not right, it's got to come out again. Different size shims put back in. So what I come up with, because I don't have access to a metal lathe, first of all I came up with this wooden dowel, so to speak. So basically incorporating the same rod from the install tool, 1/2 inch threaded rod with a large washer on the top. I've turned it so it's chamfered here to accommodate, this is the old race, accommodate the race, and that keeps it plumb. You see that's set on there, and then this diameter is the right diameter to go inside of the outer race, basically just to make sure we keep this plumb as it gets pulled in, because you don't want this going in kind of cockeyed. Okay, so cut long story short, this worked up to a point, and the reason it didn't fully work wasn't so much because of the wood. It was a little bit, but anyway, show you. My bracket that I used on my removal tool, okay, that went on the outside like that, and then it was going to just pull in the race with the air hammer with a nut on this end. And you know what happened? The crossbar on that just started to bend. Admittedly, this isn't particularly heavy duty tube, even though it's reinforced. It actually started to bend, so I reinforced it with 2 1/4 inch plate steel either side, and that started to bend as well. It wasn't so much the wooden plunger, but I do think the wooden plunger didn't transfer the shock from the impact hammer as well as metal wood. So anyway, I'll show you what I come up with, and also I want to show you a framework I made that holds the differential while I'm working on it, because it's kind of an awkward thing. You want to be able to hold it reliably in the vise and orientate it to be able to work on it safely without any damage. So let's go to this next shot. I'll show you down at the other shop how that came out and the reason I made it like that, and then we'll go on to the other tool that did end up working properly. So let's go. Basically this is some square tube I had lying around, and the reason I left it long here on this end is because when we go to lock out the pinion gear, okay, there's a locking tool that then can rest against here and then lock it, okay, and then we can get some, because we're going to need to get quite a bit of torque on this pinion nut to make the necessary crush on the crush sleeve to get our necessary preload. So this acts as a second pair of hands almost, just so that tool will just rest against there. Plus this gives me an ability to bolt this thing right into this, got this big wooden vise bench that I made some years ago, and this is a double jawed vise, immensely strong, and we'll be able to hold this, and this bench weighs around probably 500–600 pounds. So the only thing else what I'm going to do is, because of the way the castle nut is on the pinion, it has a tendency to pop out. So I'll probably rig up some kind of clamp system to hold that in, so I can busy myself with just creeping up on the torque, so to speak. This is the holding tool that I was talking about. All this is a fan, you know those fan clutch holder tools, you know, there's 2 bars, there's this to hold the nuts on the fan while you knock loose the fan nut, and this happens to be the correct size. So once we've got the pinion nut on, the flange on, this can bottom out on this bar here and completely lock that unit into place. Now this is what we call a dial indicator torque wrench. Okay, this measures inch pounds, So essentially this is what will help us determine the rotational torque. Now, the way this is designed, I was thinking about this. This is a 3/8 drive on the back here, you see. And obviously we'd have to step it up and then put that big awkward castle socket on it. And there's no way you can get an accurate reading with that thing flopping all over the place. There's just no way, because it keeps flopping. So this needs attaching to the flange in a fixed position, so when I rotate it, I'm just rotating it with my finger. I even thought of drilling a hole through this handle and attaching a piece of string. So I'm not interfering with the measurement whatsoever. It's getting a true torque reading, okay, without me messing it up. So what I've come up with is I got one of these long sockets, long bolts, nuts, excuse me, and welded it onto a piece of metal. And when we go to do that, let's take this guy off. So once this flange is on there, okay, and you know we've torqued it all down to what we think is the correct, this guy bolts onto there, okay, right, center that up. I'm going to cut a little slot hole on this so this can be trued up and made sure it's dead center, because I'm off a little bit. But anyway, so this is bolted onto there as a temporary, and then I can use a deep socket, right, a deep socket on here, so then this can rest on there, and then you can rotate it round without it falling off all over the place. Now before we go putting this shim back in, I just want to make sure that there's any like little burrs or anything to take it off. This is 320 wet and dry paper with some oil on it as lubricant, and this is a bit of flat granite. So I'm just gonna lap this shim that we have just to take any like little high spots off of it. Not that there are really too many that I can feel. Maybe tiny little burrs, you know, where it might have got caught on the tool a little bit. But obviously the high spots will show by means of me shiny. 1.56, 155, 156 there, 156. It seems all pretty consistent. Right, back up the shop now. So we're going to put the outer race in first, and I'm going to use one of these plates to drive that in. Now this isn't the one with the chamfer on it, the race drivers, but these are supposed to be able to do it as well. So I've got a 65mm one on now, so it has to obviously clear this bore but be able to push on the edge of the race. Now the race has been in the freezer for some time, help fit it, and I'm just going to put a little oil on this leading edge here, and obviously on the race as well, and I'll go and fetch that out of the freezer. So this has been in there quite some time. I'm going to just oil the leading edge to help us on our way. Hopefully this should go in without any drama. Obviously drive it in perpendicular. The tone should change when it hits bottoms out. There you go. That drove in pretty easy, really. I'll check on the other side, make sure, but by the sounds of it, you can just hear it, you know, and I'll measure this edge. So this obviously just stays. This doesn't get pulled in and out to make adjustments. There you go, that's set in quite nicely. Like I say, this has been in the fridge or freezer for a while, just contracting it as much as possible. I guess you could warm this up as well, but I didn't find it necessary. Worked pretty well. First of all, I'm going to lubricate the leading edge of the seat there with some oil to make sure everything works and goes in nice and smoothly. Let's get the shim in there. Might go in there first. I've already put a little oil on there. I've got the race out of the freezer. Here's the race. I'm just going to lubricate that leading edge. Get everything working for us. Get that guy on there. That sits on there like so. We'll get that guy so make sure it's all bottomed out nicely. And on the other side here, it's held nice and plumb. Just going to bring that rod in a little bit. So now I'm putting this guy on the other side, you know, our little clamping device, that's going on the other end here. Right, we'll get the air ratchet on it now. Just shows you how tight a tolerance this is. My yoke, it bent, because this is just a square tube, so what I'm going to have to do is I'll weld up some solid bar across there. I had put a reinforcement bar on the top here, it's not strong enough. What we need to do is just double check that this is going in dead plumb. So I've checked it with this Starrett gauge to measure all the way around, essentially, checking our measurements, making sure it's going in dead straight and it's not going in cockeyed, and it's pretty much smack on straight. I've also blown it with some air out all around to make sure we've got no little bits of dirt in there before that seats down on that shim behind that race, which you can hear it rattling around in now. So don't forget to put that shim in there when you do this. There is a special Mercedes tool, a couple of pucks essentially on both ends, on the outer race and the inner race, and a large screw thread to pull it together. So let me show you what I come up with, because I don't have those. So what you can buy is a race set kit. Now essentially it's a series, tiny little discs like this, right up to big guys like this. And the only thing is the hole wasn't very big, it was about 1/2 inch. And also I wanted to beef up the thread, so I went to 5/8 rod. So what I come up with, this is a 74 millimeter puck, okay, and that fits nicely on the outer edge of this bearing race, but not so big it won't go in the hole, so to speak. So that goes on there, okay, and hits that edge, but I see it's slightly smaller in overall diameter. Now that's okay, but it's, see, the race can't, it's got to find itself, you know. And sometimes they make these with a chamfered edge, you know, so that would lock it in, but I don't have those. So what I did instead, there's a series of washers here, just a stack of washers. That guy goes on there. This one, the smaller puck, this is a 55mm puck, goes on there and then grabs that, so it automatically centers once you put a nut on there. Okay, you put that nut on there, centers the race and holds it tight. Now you don't want this puck to be higher than this edge, because it could interfere with the shim and clip the shim or something of that nature. So with a series of washers you can vary the height of that one to get it just, if you can see, Hopefully you can see it's flush there, but it still holds that. So that's the idea. So now that's held, and then we've got another puck here that I've drilled out to 5/8, 65mm, that will go on the outer race, okay, and then we can pull it on. So let's get it set up and I'll show you how it works. So we've got this one on first, okay, and then I've figured out this amount of washers, 3 washers, varying thicknesses, to enable the right depth. That goes on now, and then we'll screw that guy on. So let's get that in there. There it is. It sits there and it automatically trues itself because of that inner puck there lining up with the race. So let's get the air ratchet on that and see what that does. I do believe that has got it. We'll just loosen everything, make sure we're seated correctly. There you have it. That is all seated in, beautiful. I'll triple check, you know, but I've got to be honest with you. When it stopped the other night, right, you guys were with me. I thought, oh man, it's going to be a bit of a devil, but I think that, I don't know about you guys, but if you hit a hurdle, right, it's always best to just walk away from it for a bit. Go and have a cup of tea or just have a break. Come back with it, talk to people that know what they're talking about. And that's why I really appreciate I've got Duke down in Southern California to talk ideas through and confirm things, and it's just a wonderful resource, and that's what the group's all about as well, to share these sort of things, because otherwise you're kind of shooting in the dark, aren't you? My biggest fear, probably overthinking it, you know, as we're pulling in that race there, if it didn't go in just plumb, I was going to break something. And I didn't give a crap about the race, but it's the housing, the casing, and I had these nightmares of this cracking or something, and then I'm really in trouble. But I run that by Duke, and he said he's never had that situation. Just triple check that you're getting that race in plumb. And the way he did it, from my understanding, so he's got his puck, or he had some real Mercedes ones that were designed for this purpose, and he would set that on there. Because you can't get a hammer in there very easy, he used a ball peen hammer, and because it's rounded on the end there, you can direct blows at the far end there to be able to try and correct it, and that worked for him. But I think, you know, the wooden puck that I made up, even though it didn't complete the job, what it did do, it kept that race in, because it used the outer race as a guide. This whole setup essentially does the same thing, because this is nice and tight, right, and then this is holding that true, and as long as this is a straight bit, it's going to go in straight, isn't it? And as I say, we lost the advantage of freezing the race because this has been a few days, but with a little oil on the leading edge, and just be patient, and this will work. So that is all in now. That's a good step. It may even have to come out again, because that's the way we vary pinion depth on these Mercedes differentials. Next thing to do is to get that pinion gear in now, the pinion gear, and the bearings all set. Get that preloaded. We'll get our pattern test, and we'll probably have to take it all apart again, and you know, paint the teeth and all that, make sure our pattern is good, and it's a lot of back and forth. But as you can see, if you take your time and talk to people that know. That's the key thing. And I think you can do this. I mean, after all, I'm doing it, and I've never done it before. But like I say, I think I was kind of irrational fear, because this is some meaty amount of steel here, and just that little race I don't think was going to bust anything. That's it. Have a good one. This is what, we're a week before Christmas, so I probably won't be filming anymore for a few weeks at least, because you know, we've got family around and all that stuff. But there's so much to do in this car. I'm a little behind on the welding, just because, you know, whenever the mood strikes me, I'll get really keen on one thing and then give it a break on that, jump on something else. And that's the beauty of this project. There's so many varying parts and details to take care of. It occupies different parts of your thought process and skills and what have you. And I'm enjoying every part of it. And where I'm at advantage, I guess, from a lot of people, I'm not in any hurry. I'm not trying to rush this project. If it takes another couple of 3 years, I don't care, basically. I'm enjoying it. And you know, because I try and rush it, get it done, and then regret that I missed something, then that's no good, is it? And that's all I have to say, guys. So happy Christmas, happy holidays, whatever floats your boat, and I will see you next year. Thanks a lot for all your support all during the year, and don't eat too much, and happy New Year, and I'll see you next year. All right, take care, guys. Bye bye.